Gods, my head. Why is it always the head and so goddamn cold? Sapphire winced as she lay flat on her bed, eyes blinking open for the first time in a long time. Everything felt so heavy, her mind slow. Even if she had wanted to, she wouldn't have the strength to lift an arm yet. The cold was taking its toll despite the divine protections still lingering in her veins. How long it had been she didn't know, but as she stared at the ceiling nothing seemed wrong with it, other than the threatening drop of water dangling from the beam over her head. Not long ago most of it would have been covered in a layer of frost, but the keep was thawing out. Fires were likely blazing away in every place she could safely put one. Just the thought of a warm fire was almost enough to make her shed a tear, as she tried to wiggle a finger to only limited success. It was always a little surreal to think about how she had been lying there like some icicle, while the world froze around them. She just hoped they would only have to do it once this winter. Some people thought that hibernation was good for you. Saf agreed with the camp that thought anything which leaves you lethargic for days afterwards is likely not healthy. Not to mention those who never woke up again, be they the very young, old or sick. Nanook best still be kicking, and little Gennaro. Winters are depressing enough when everyone makes it through, Sapphire thought to herself, her mind still slow and hazy. Normally the kind of feeling that would have you fearing for your life as you drifted off to sleep anyway, but today things were getting warmer. She took the time to try and wiggle everything she could think of, feeling for any damage. She had heard all manners of tales about digits lost, even a chunk being taken out of a leg or a section of wing, though that might have been a folk tale. They were lucky at the keep. They had Rachuk to keep an eye on them all, and this year he'd even had help. So she wasn't that worried, but it was still nice to make sure. She couldn't feel anything wrong, though it was quite hard to tell. Everything was either numb or protested loudly upon being moved. I wonder if Tom has gotten himself into any trouble. Hopefully it's only the kind we can have a laugh at. They could have gotten a bit more of a fire going though, this is taking forever. Maybe I can make it down to a fire. She really didn't feel like leaving her bed, or really moving at all. She was so cold she could hardly think. In fact, she felt like she wanted nothing more than to go right back to sleep, but the thoughts of a warm fire and a cup of tea were enticing enough to keep her eyes from shutting once more. Slowly and carefully, she twisted her head to look towards the door. Her neck felt stiff and weak, but it obeyed. Nothing in her room looked amiss as far as she could see. There was a tiny bit of light peeking through the shutters from outside, so the sun was up. Most of the light, however, came from the open door leading to the warmly lit hallway. So far she couldn't hear anything moving yet, but the orange light peeking through looked so inviting, like the sight of it alone could warm you up. With a great effort she started to move, folding up a leg and slowly pushing herself over onto her side. Her tail ached in relief, finally free to move at the root. The promise of warmth egged her on. One step at a time. Come on, girl, for the hot tea. Gently she dangled her legs over the side of the bed, and with a great push got herself sitting upright, arm wobbling under the strain as her breath grew laboured. Silver Streak Rayland. More like silvered old hag Rayland. She chuckled to herself weakly, as she took a moment to just sit on the bed, slumped over like an old woman. She certainly felt like she was 150 right now. I bet you Jackie is up and about already, cuddling her little hot rock, she muttered to herself, her first words spoken in what some might call the new year. Maybe that's a little harsh. She chuckled weakly, then simply sighed, looking towards the door. If we want a hot rock or a water skin, we have to go get it ourselves, apparently. She sat there for a while, trying to gather the will to actually try standing up. She felt like she would just topple over if she tried it, so instead she started stretching out one stiff muscle after another, ever so slowly regaining feeling through her body. The feeling was mostly pain, but that certainly helped her wake up. Gods! Next year Tom better have the heat thingy working. I will not miss any of this, she complained to herself, as her wings unfolded and spread wide, slowly and carefully. They felt just as weak as they always did after months indoors. Who knows? Maybe it would even be possible to stretch your wings inside the new factory next winter. One can dream. With a bit more time spent staring at the open door, she felt it was time to at least try. It wasn't exactly warm inside her room, but maybe it was better in the hallway. It looked so very lovely. Glancing down at herself, there was something she needed to do first, however. Gotta grab a fur or something, she mumbled, twisting on the bed, back letting out a row of cracks to rival a half-decent crash. Wow! By the gates! She sighed, before twisting the other way, savouring the feeling of the best back crack she would get all year. Just about the only upside to it all. Right, stand up, then fur. With a hand braced on the side of the bed, she slowly started putting weight on wobbly legs, knees shooting sharp jolts of pain up her legs as they protested. Come on, you old goat. You're worse than a nook. With the force of what felt like squatting with 3 deer over her neck, she pushed herself upright, one hand on the bed, the other hurriedly finding the small table to steady herself, as she stood hunched for a moment, before slowly straightening up. That's more like it. Gods, I'm out of breath already. This is what it's like being old. Poor the nook. Snatching up a fur from the bed, she gingerly wrapped herself up. It wouldn't help her get warmer any quicker, but it would provide modesty as she turned towards the door, still steadying herself. Slowly, she started to take one step after another, little by little, and with all the confidence of a toddler taking their first steps, as she edged closer and closer to her goal. Just as her hand grasped the doorframe, she heard the sound of claws on wood, walking swiftly. Someone was hurrying up the stairs and into the hallway. She stuck her head out just in time to catch a hurrying Rachuk, arms full of water skins, strutting into Fengi's room, not even having noticed Sapphire. By the gods, yes! Give me one of those! Sapphire thought to herself, as she stepped out into the hallway proper, still leaning on the wall with an expression like that of the Walking Dead. Nothing was heard from inside save some ruffling of sheets, before Rachuk was again on the move, clacking claws betraying him. Boo! Sapphire went, with all the vigour of a field mouse, successfully scaring the captain as he came back out the door right into her face. Oh, good lord! Sapphire, you are up already? I was just bringing up some skins. Would you like one? Would I ever? She up yet? She tried to do a sign-on towards Fengi's room, but it wasn't much more than a slight shake of the head. Oh no, I simply slid one onto the sheets. Right. Took you long enough. Gimme. She reached out a sluggish hand for one of the sacks of warming bliss, but Rachuk deftly moved them away. Manners, Sapphire! You are young and sprightly. I put them all with the young and the old first. Now it was your turn, the captain retorted, much to her annoyance. He did hold out a water skin for her, though, so she took it, sliding it in under her nice fur, pinning it to her side with a wing. Can I have another, please? She tried, as she leant on the wall to help with balance. Very well, but there have to be a few for Heron. You know how he is. He will still be sleeping tomorrow, she sighed, as the captain nodded. The second hot water skin was handed over, and she pinned it against her other side, savouring the warmth that was already radiating through her. So where are the others? In the Grand Hall. Tom has prepared a surprise. I do believe you will enjoy it. Is Maiko awake yet? Who? Sapphire questioned, dumbly looking at the captain, who for once looked just as clueless in return. Maiko! Maiko the Royal Guardsman. The one you have been sharing a room with for months. Oh! Sapphire bobbed her head up and down. Sorry, still sleepy. I don't know. Right. Oh, The captain raised his gaze to look over her shoulder, growing all stiff in his posture for some reason. She slowly turned around but didn't see anyone there. He coughed slightly, and she turned back to look at him confused, at what had him standing at attention all of a sudden. Your fur, Sapphire. She looked down at herself confused. The fur had slipped a little, so she readjusted, dropping one of her water skins in the process. She just stared at it, not really wanting to bend down to pick it up, but at the same time it was so lovely and warm. Do you want another? Rachuk offered, as she stared dumbly at the floor. Yeah. There you go. Rachuk offered a replacement for her. She took it without much grace and got it under the fur right away as he bent down to pick up the dropped one. "I shall go see to the rest of them. It is warmer in the hall. Do go down there and do not wander."
"Yes, Mum,"
Sapphire mumbled in reply, as she started to ever so slowly move past the captain, one wobbly step at a time, leaning a horn against the wall for balance with every step, tail still too stiff to be useful. The captain didn't mind the rudeness as he moved on down the hallway, leaving Sapphire to her expedition. At the stairs, she seriously considered just sitting and sliding down them. They were wet enough, it would probably work. Instead, she opted for sitting down, wrapped up in her fur and simply moving down one step at a time. She finally started to hear the hustle and bustle of laughter and what sounded like clattering plates. Maybe even the crackle of a fire, but that might just be her imagination. It was quiet and subdued, most of them likely not really awake yet, but everyone was definitely doing something. Something she wanted to be a part of. She picked up the pace, bumping down one step after another. The air felt warmer too, and it was starting to get cozy underneath her lovely fur, working muscles helping heat her up as well, little by little.
"It smells nice too," she finally noticed.
It was food. Definitely food. Grilled venison and maybe also rabbit or hare. There were smells she didn't recognize too, or maybe that was just her nose still being a bit frozen. As she made it to the final step, she waited for a moment before deciding to stand up. It took less effort this time, and she wobbled a little less too. And with a steadying hand, she walked down, being greeted by something she most certainly did not expect. What's in there? Every sconce and lantern was lit, all three fireplaces roaring with life, the tables set with plates and food from end to end. Looking up, colourful garlands hung dangling, most of them left over from the summer festival, but there were new ones too. In the centre of the room, for whatever reason, stood some sort of evergreen which had been covered in stuff. Most of the children were sitting on the floor around it, playing with their toys. The little ones always heated up first. Gennaro didn't weigh much more than a good hot rock after all. Am I still sleeping? Is this a vision maybe? Her eyes kept wandering. The food on the tables looked strange indeed. A few bits she recognized, but most she had no clue at all. Rather than attempting to understand, she stepped down the last few steps onto the warm wooden floor, the kitchen below having warmed them up long ago. Not everyone was there, but quite a lot of faces had already made it. Half were still wrapped in blankets and furs, Paulin waddling around alone in a travelling outfit for Dragonback, sporting a mug of tea. If it's a vision, blessed be the chance to have something warm, or at least feel like it, Sapphire concluded, as she set forth towards the nearest table. She just about kept her balance on wobbly legs without anything to lean on, before she felt a pair of arms around her waist, and she was lifted from the ground. "I have captured some kind of sleepy sausage!" The very energetic and depressingly familiar voice of Jackie came from behind her. Saph really didn't feel like playing games right now, as she dangled in the larger woman's grasp, unable to even try to resist. "Jackie, please. Saw. I just want some tea." "Oh, we can do better than tea," Jackie retorted, as she started walking with her prize. To Sapphire's relief, she was at least heading for the tables, and before long she was plonked down in front of an empty plate. "We got soup and some new thing Tom worked out. It's warm, and you'll love it." Sapphire didn't argue as Jackie moved off in a hurry, likely going to fetch this new invention. Sapphire reached for the big pot of what she assumed to be hot boiled water, ladling some up into the empty mug by her seat. But as it came out, it wasn't clear, and there were chunks in it. Oh. She bent down to sniff just what she had poured into her mug, getting a rather savoury whiff. Soup? She straightened back up and looked at it for a while, considering. Then she just shrugged and picked it up, having a sip. Who says soup can't go in mugs after all? Giving it a gentle sip, it was quite lovely, fatty soup, possibly made from boiled bones or some other such thing. She didn't care. It was warm and tasted nice. She sat on the bench,
perfectly content in her own little world, under her fur slowly warming up more and more. She wasn't even halfway done when Jackie set down another plate in front of her, this one loaded with... Saf honestly didn't even know. Some sort of strings? She tried, looking to Jackie for an explanation. Did he boil a ball of yarn by accident? Nah, trust me. Try it. It's good. Jackie egged on, with the sort of confidence that led Saf to suspect a trap of some kind. She looked to the plate and picked up a fork to poke at it a little. It felt almost gelatinous, so it wasn't yarn at least. It smelled quite good, and there were flecks of meat to be found in the sauce all around, so it couldn't be that bad. If nothing else, she could lick the sauce off. Sticking the fork into the bouncy mash she pulled up, revealing long, flat threads, which just seemed to keep going. Go on, put it in your mouth, Jackie beckoned, still watching, which didn't fill Sapphire with confidence. That is what he said, Sapphire retorted half-heartedly, though Jackie suddenly burst out laughing. Saf did curl a very slight smile as she tried putting the strings in her mouth, causing a bit of a mess right away, as she just couldn't be bothered to hold her head in over the plate. She chewed a little on the strange bouncy texture. It felt almost like a boiled bread dumpling of sorts, but long and thin. The sauce was excellent though. Savoury, meaty, cheesy, salty. Exactly what she wanted right about now. Eating more of it proved a touch tricky, and eventually she resorted to leaning in and just shoveling it into her mouth, letting the excess hang out until it was chewed off and fell to the plate. See? I told you. Would I ever lie to you? Yes, Sapphire managed between mouthfuls, as Jackie chuckled, giving Saf a solid slap on the shoulder. Good to have you back. What would I ever do without you? Jackie scoffed, giving Sapphire another, slightly harder slap on the back. Warm up a bit, then come on over to the tree. He's been damn busy. That's usually a bad thing, Sapphire thought to herself, as she was finally left alone with her food. She had spared a glance down the table, where a fair few familiar faces were sitting hunched over, wrapped up in a varied assortment of stuff to get warm, all eating either the strange strings or hot soup. All in all, this was certainly the strangest awakening she had ever had. It was quite nice, though. Once she was warmed up, she might even join in the festivities. What she couldn't work out was why. Was this the Christmas stuff Tom had talked about before? She couldn't think of anything else, really. Normally there wasn't much to celebrate, nor anyone around who wanted to put in the work. Saf stopped for a moment, and leant back to look up into the rafters. The garlands were all hung from up on high. Did he really get Rachuk to do the decorating? She glanced down the table at all the dishes and nicely set tables. And he cooked all this himself? Turning around to look at the noble's table and the large fireplace behind it, there was a whole deer there, spinning merrily under the supervision of... no one, seemingly. He hunted a deer? And prepared it? And of course he made something to get it to spin by itself, because why not? She pondered for a moment, glancing about before looking back to the fire, squinting at it hard. He didn't prepare that. He didn't what? A very sleepy-sounding Fengi questioned, as she sat down next to Sapphire. The young Huntress seemingly revived, thanks to Rachuk's waterskin delivery. That deer, on the big fire, he didn't do that. Huh? Fengi clearly wasn't quite with them yet, but she did look. Who let the next day on? That'd be so dry, Fengi responded, before yawning as wide as she could. So dumb. Sapphire did a double take, but true to her word, the lower part of the neck was indeed still there. A pretty bad cut normally, often just thrown in the soup pot, bones and all. Even Jackie wouldn't make that mistake. Maybe it was Tom who'd done it after all. He's gotten a lot better with a knife then. It's trimmed quite well otherwise. How long were we sleeping, do you know? Fengi questioned, as she looked at Sapphire's plate. What's that? I don't know, and I don't know. Here, I'll get you some soup first. Saf reached out for the ladle once more, and this time put the soup in the bowl where it belonged. It's good for you. Thanks.
As Fengi set about slowly eating the nice warm soup, Sapphire looked at the strange tree where the kids were playing. Underneath sat a few wrapped up parcels, and the tree itself had been covered in what she now realised were shavings from the mill, or maybe the lathe. Many different colours. They even sort of shined a little, and at the top of the tree sat a wooden star for some reason. One of the strangest things I ever saw, like Nauk and Oleg got engaged. Two gods who hated each other more you didn't find inside the Court of Light. Even if Oleg was technically in the Grey Court, it still counted in her mind. As she kept staring, she spotted the human at last, coming out towards the noble's table with a spring in his step, looking like he was hurrying. With a quick leap, he was up on top of the table, careful not to step on the plates or the food as he turned to address them all. "Hear, hear! Listen up, those who can. Last living soul should be joining us pretty soon. Ah, there's one of the sleepy ones." The voice of Tom rang out as he addressed them all. Sapphire sped a glance towards the stairs where Heron was indeed making his way down, looking about as surprised as she surely had. "You've been gone for a while, so I thought something nice would be, well, nice. Anywho, pasta and soup for starters. Main course is fresh venison with a nice sauce and some freshly baked bread. Dessert is my best attempt at fruit pie with what I could find in the dry stores. So dig in. Once we finish, there is a little something for the kids to unwrap. And by popular request, tonight we'll all get to watch a movie, with subtitles you can actually understand for once. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So I'll leave you to it. I got a cake to go poke at." With that, he hopped on down, receiving an equal dose of applause and puzzled looks as he walked off towards the kitchen, Jackie hot on his heels. Sass sat and wondered for a bit, then shook her head. "Nuh-uh, no way. He didn't do all that by himself while thawing out the keep too. Not possible. He takes half a day to trim a deer. Not possible. Fresh bread as well?" "Saf, what are subtitles?" Yup, that's looking good. Nice and bouncy. Needle is clean. Time for them to come out," Tom declared, as kitchen assistant Jackie started putting on the heavy woolen mitts for dealing with hot stuff. Tom may or may not have stolen several hot rocks and stuffed them under her covers early in the morning as they were just starting to get the keep fired back up to temperature. He had needed a handle to after Nick and Elsa departed that very same morning, complete with tote bag for the quick hop to Deriva, just in case it proved tricky to find it under the white blanket of snow that was still covering most everything outside. Rachuk hadn't been very pleased, but he was too busy with thawing people out to help in the kitchens, so Tom had improvised. He was glad he did. She had been overjoyed to see him, tears welling in her eyes as she refused to let go of him. He'd let her, of course. It wasn't as if he had a choice in the matter, even if she was weak from the cold. It had been quite the battle to convince her there was work to be done. The cold slowing her mind. It was almost like she wasn't quite there to start with, but he had eventually managed to convince her it was time to get moving, though it was some time before her mental fog quite cleared up. "Coming up? I didn't know you bake things," she questioned, as she leant back away from the oven, holding the large clay cooking vessel, which was soon deposited on a well-worn oaken table to rest. "Come on, I helped bake the cake for the summer festival. All I have to do is follow the recipe," Tom protested, as he gave her a hug from behind. They hadn't had much time to just be the pair of them since she woke up. Hopefully someone else could do the dishes tonight. "I don't know, man. My stuff always came out wonky. I can do a flatbread, though," she replied, standing there for a little bit, as she let out a small sigh. "But I'm about to learn why, aren't I?" "Well, you haven't been using fine scales and a thermometer now, have you?" Tom teased, as he hugged a little tighter. "You used a metal needle, Tom." I know, but I do still have a thermometer. Anyway, that needs to rest for a moment, and then we need to bring up the bread and stuff. Then it's time for the main course." "Right. Big baskets. We got butter?" she said, looking around the kitchen till she spotted the bread baskets. "Sure do. I'll get that and the carving set." He reluctantly let go as they both went to grab the stuff. "You are not carving that deer, even if you did shoot it," Jackie protested, as she pulled the hampers down from the shelves. Tom sneaked a glance as she went up onto her tiptoes to grab the very top ones. Fine, you do the honours then. It wasn't like he minded, nor had he shot it. He was just hoping no one would figure that part out.
Yes, that means the best cuts are all for me.
She spoke under her breath as she turned around, arms full of hampers. Tom hadn't actually been doing anything other than looking, so he quickly got to work getting the butter out and unwrapped. Jackie started loading the bread in just as they heard claws coming down the stairs at a measured pace. Turning to look, a familiar wingless dragonette came back down the other way, dressed in her all-too-familiar old cleaner's clothes.
Is there anything I can help with?
Not really, Ray. I think we have things in hand, Tom replied, as she stood there expectantly, eyes like a puppy, hands clasped in front of her. Actually, there might be one thing.
Yes? What is it?
She asked, voice brightening. Go put on something nice and report back to the tree. I have a treat for the kids, and I'll need someone to help keep them in check after they have it.
Oh.
That evidently wasn't quite what she had in mind, but luckily Tom had managed to explain why before she objected. Besides, it's Christmas. It's customary to wear your best clothes.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Should I go tell everyone? Most are just wrapped up in what they could find. Or what was warmest.
It's fine. It's not like it's a regular Christmas anyway. But come on, that can't be particularly warm, Tom questioned, gesturing to the quite thin brown linen clothes. It looked only one step removed from what you might use for a sack of flour.
Yes. Yes, I got a vest and a few other things.
Well, go put 'em on then. Can't have you freezing either. I'm sorry I didn't get the heating working, but hopefully it won't be too long.
Oh, no, Tom. You have done so much. This is lovely, fresh warm food. Warm fires. It's such a nice way to wake up again. It wasn't this nice in the city, ever.
Well, that's good to hear, and you're quite welcome. Oh, and I don't have a gift for you personally either, but I'm working on it, Tom replied with a wink, which he regretted almost immediately, as Ray took a moment to stare at him, thinking, before it clicked what he might be referring to. Her face lit up like the sun as she looked primed for an outburst of sheer joy. She huddled her arms up close to her sides, breathing rapidly, before turning away and quickly scampering back up the stairs with a bit of a squeak as she hurried away. Oh, you poor thing. Tom, you idiot. Now you have to get that done in a hurry. Tally-ho, chaps. Time to make scaffolding fly. Jackie's gonna kill me if she crashes and burns. Actually, no. Saf would. And Fengi. And definitely Tigwan. God damn it, Tom.